He's just a regular guy with a cool job that God loves for some reason. Welcome to the Steve Marston Show, a daily journey in learning how to live more like Jesus, conversations with those that God is working through, and dad jokes. It's the most unique show you'll hear today. Now, here's Steve.
All right, welcome in. It is a fun Friday here on the Steve Marston Show, and we are glad that you are part. If you would like to join the conversation, you can. 888-901-5454, brand new number. So take advantage of it. 888-901-5454. We look forward to getting to your phone calls coming up as we move through the program today. We'll have our buddy Paul Acey from PluggedIn.com coming up as our special guest today, talking about all the different things that are going on as far as entertainment, movies, streaming, games, you name it. They cover it there at PluggedIn.com. Of course, it's Ministry of Focus on the Family. And we've got our weekly Babylon Bee and review coming up and so much more. So we want you to stay with us. We're going to get started today with a topic that we talk a lot about. This show is based on a foundation of being a better disciple. If you're kind of new to what we're doing, that was my whole thought process when we were told we were going to launch a show a couple of years ago. And I wanted to do something different, to be able to take what we know on Sunday mornings, but then to apply it Monday through Saturday and see growth and to be closer to Jesus now than we were 6 months ago. And in 6 months future, be closer to him even more so. That's the whole idea behind our little radio show and podcast here. And to that end, we talk a lot about apologetics. And apologetics, if you've never really heard the term before, or maybe you've heard it and just kind of smiled and nodded and not really knowing what it meant, all it is just a defense of the faith. It's the why behind what you believe. Because I think all of us can tell what we believe, but if we were kind of pressed a little bit as to what are the reasons why, it's kind of when we start to stumble. So I like to take a lot of time to talk about apologetics. And one of the best people that I've come across here lately is a guy named Wes Huff. And you may remember Wes. I think it was a couple of years ago. I mean, time flies. It may have been earlier this year in January, now that I think about it, that he was on Joe Rogan. I had never heard of this guy until then. And he was amazing on Rogan and just was able to clearly and concisely answer questions from, I think we could call Joe Rogan safely a nominal believer, someone who has legitimate questions about faith and about accuracy and about truth and isn't afraid to ask them. And Wesley Huff not only hit a home run, he hit a grand slam. He was amazing on that program. And that has opened a lot of doors from other programs, both, kind of Christian and non-Christian, to have him on. And there was this podcast, and it's called Melissa the Helpful Homemaker. That almost sounds like a 60s TV show. But Melissa the Helpful Homemaker has a podcast, and she had Wes Huff on to talk about apologetics and to talk about how we can answer some tough questions, especially the questions about suffering. Because when you really get into apologetics, suffering is the one thing that we are always going to be asked about. Why do good things happen to bad people? That's the main thing most people want to know, especially if they are going through something or a family member is going through something that is, very difficult, a terminal illness or what have you. And here's Wes on that podcast answering the fact that, yes, we can always give the right answer in a very academic kind of scientific way, but we've got to make sure that we remember we're dealing with real people, with real flesh and blood, people that are going through some stuff, sometimes more than we can even imagine. So let's check out this first clip from Wes Huff. Well, it's just good stuff. Wes Huff just really able to break it down when we're talking about dealing with people and answering the questions. Well, why do sufferings continue to happen? Why do horrible things like natural disasters and child starvation and child cancer and on continue to happen if we have this big and loving and caring God that's supposed to be all powerful, that's supposed to be all knowing? Why can't he stop it? And again, we could give really kind of cold answers, just state the facts of, well, we live in a broken society, we live in a broken world, and that's just the way it is. We got log, there's an ultimate good in the world. If you acknowledge there's an ultimate evil, you're acknowledging there's an ultimate good. And you can be kind of real, just kind of, like I say, cold in those answers. And we have to remember that when we're dealing with people, especially people going through stuff, that we've got to recognize that they're human beings and that they're hurting, and they're looking to heaven thinking, why in the world is this happening to me? Or why in the world is this happening to my loved one? And we have to have that compassion. And it just reminds me of the verse that we all use for the apologetics in Christian faith. We all point back to 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. And it says, sanctify Christ in your hearts as Lord, always being ready to make a defense to anyone who asks, to give an account for the hope that is in you. We usually stop right there because that's the true definition of Christian apologetics. But Peter went on to finish that phrase with, do it all with gentleness and respect, because it's so true. We can give the right answers and still do it in a wrong fashion, in a fashion that doesn't reach out with the love of Jesus and the heart and compassion that he gave. Just got to keep that in mind. All right, much more to come. The Steve Marston Show will be back before you know it. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching wherever you are. We are on two great radio stations, AM 630, The Word in San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas. And we're also on Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. So if you'd like to be a part of the program, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can send me an email, steve@salemmedia.com. You can leave us a comment on one of the live stream platforms that we're on, and we're on all of them right now. Or you can call us, 888-901-5454, 888-901-5454. Every week, what we like to do around here is to check the headlines of what's going on. And most other Christian talk shows that you'll come across will go to sources like Politico or the New York Times or the Washington Post or even the New Orleans Times-Picayune. Even though nobody really goes there, it's just a fun thing to say, Picayune. However, Steve Marston Show is different. We don't go to those websites. We never, ever take our material from there. No. What we like to do is go to the Babylon Bee. It is the satirical website that, yes, pokes fun at politics, but also pokes fun at the church world as well. And being the smart aleck by nature that I am, I just love it. So let's get some appropriate Babylon Bee review music going there, producer Tommy, and let's get to the review of this week's Bee. And this one's pretty interesting. It's 10 other ways Jesus was tempted by Satan. Now, we all know the story. If you know your Bible, Jesus being tempted in the wilderness by Satan, turn these stones into bread and bow down and worship me, and I'll give you all the kingdoms that you see, and throw yourself off the temple and the angels will catch you, and all those things, right? Well, undiscovered, that just didn't quite make the biblical account, were these 10. B says, while Satan famously tempted our Lord to turn the stones into bread and to become an earthly king. Lucifer had other tricks up his sleeve. Oh, yes, he did. Here are 10 things Satan tempted Jesus with that didn't quite make it into the biblical account. Are you ready for this? Here we go. Number 10, an AI-generated image of the future American president looking like Jesus while surrounded by bald eagles and fighter jets. Well, there you go. Thank you, Lord, for standing firm where we could not. Of course, that's poking fun about Donald Trump with the picture the other day. Number 9, Satan tempted Jesus with fresh, crispy tots. Oof, he's all there, Satan. Number 8, a temptation with the Blockbuster membership card. We had no idea how precious those things were. Hey, listen, you have to be of a certain age to understand that joke. Speaking of being of a certain age to understand it, here's number 7. Number 7 is a 1978 Trans Am. Every male would have succumbed except for Christ. Now, let me tell you something. That's absolutely true, because anybody that's ever seen Smokey and the Bandit remembers how cool the Bandit was driving around in that Trans Am. In fact, I go to church with a guy who has a 1981 model of that black Trans Am. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Number 6 on the list of the Babylon Bee of Satan's temptation of Jesus that did not quite make it into the biblical account is a mint condition foil Charizard. Now, I had to look up what Charizard was, but that is from Pokemon. It's one of those Pokemon cards. Imagine how much that thing would be worth now. But yet Jesus was able to resist. Number 5. Ooh, this would have been tough too. Cheesy biscuits from Red Lobster. The Lord's stomach may have grumbled when he considered turning the stones into these cheesy biscuits. I'm telling you, they're addictive. They really are good. Let's see. We're up to number 4 on the list. Number 4 of the things Satan tempted Jesus with that did not quite make it into the biblical account. 2 tickets to Willie Nelson concert at Bethlehem Civic Center back when Willie was in his prime. What was that, 1970 something? I don't know. Willie's great. I love Willie Nelson. Number 3 on the list. This one would have been big too. Jesus withstood the temptation of Chick-fil-A's being open on Sunday. This would have broken any mere mortal, the Babylon Bee says. Which, by the way, when do you crave chicken the most? As soon as you get out of church. 12 o'clock Sunday afternoons. Exactly right. All right, we reached number 2 on the list. Number 2 is a working lightsaber. Boy, Satan was really pulling out the big guns on that one. Listen, if you're a certain generation, Star Wars captured our imaginations like nothing else did. And to have a real working lightsaber, are you kidding me? Man, glad I wasn't the Messiah on that, I guarantee you. All right, and number 1 on the list of things Satan tempted Jesus with that didn't quite make it into the biblical account, dipping dots. Satan promised Jesus it was the ice cream of the future, but the father of lies was truly living up to his name there. You remember that? I remember that as a kid. The Dippin' Dots. Everybody thought Dippin' Dots was good. I mean, they branded themselves the ice cream of the future. No, nobody wants the little dots. People want real ice cream. All right, there you go. That's the Babylon Bee in review here on the Steve Marston Show. We've got still a lot to come up for you. There's a new movie coming out that Lee Strobel, who is, we spoke about apologetics earlier in the first segment, that he's a part of. It's a documentary. We'll be having not only information about that, but also a video clip of Lee talking about it coming up before we're done today. Oh, and our girl Nyla Ray, we talk about her a lot. She is the OnlyFans celebrity. She was like the person that made more money on OnlyFans than anybody else did. And then she was gloriously saved and has given her life to Christ. And we have trumpeted her a lot. Well, she's got some troubles with the government. We'll talk about that coming up as well. Plus, we'll get to your phone calls. Again, you can call us at 888-901-5454. 888-901-5454. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by our buddy Paul Acey. He's the director of PluggedIn.com, which is a ministry of focus on the family. We'll be talking all things entertainment with him. Stick around. Oh, that just got to cut off. Welcome back. It's the Steve Marston Show. It's a fun Friday around here, and we'd love to get interactive with you. And there's several ways you can do that. You can send us an email, comment on one of our video streams, and we've got tons of them: Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, Rumble, and the list goes on and on. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. And of course, you can call 888-901-5454, 888-901-5454. Okay, so as we're waiting for our buddy Paul Acey to join us here from Focus on the Family's PluggedIn.com, I got kind of a little confessional to make. And this was not really my doing, but, we always have Adam Holtz on. And I've always introduced Adam as the director of PluggedIn.com. Well, that's kind of true, but not so much anymore, because Adam is more of an overseer role. I mean, he kind of started and was the main guy at Plugged In for a long time, and now it's kind of take a step back in the role. And Paul Acey is really the guy who is the director of the website. So we'll see if we can't get him. We'll see if we can't get him on here in just a second. And there's several things coming out that I want to be able to ask him about, especially for those of us that are of a certain age. We have seen Malcolm in the Middle. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little too old because, Malcolm in the Middle was about a teenager, and I was already probably in my 20s when that really kind of came out and really was kind of funny. But it's making a reboot with all the original cast. And so that's something I want to talk to Paul about, see how good that is, because these nostalgia pieces like this, a lot of times just aren't what they are cracked up to be. And a lot of times they are so much lacking than the original. And it's almost like, why you want to mess with something successful? But what's cool is most of the original cast, I think all of the original cast is back. So that means Bryan Cranston playing the dad, the guy that made his famous in the TV show Breaking Bad. He's back. And Frankie Muniz is the kid Malcolm, now grown up. So we'll see how that goes. We'll look forward to talking to him about that. There's also a couple of other things that I want to ask him about, including this trend that seems like is on the upswing with people going back to the movies, because there for a while you had COVID hit, and then Netflix and the like really exploded because we were, all pretty much forced to be at home, and we saw how much entertainment we could control ourselves on our own timetable versus going out and, making a whole night of it, spending however much money for the tickets and those popcorn and the candy and the parking and going in and, sitting down and watching a film together for 3 or 4 hours and then having to come back home. We were able to cut out a lot of that and just see it from the comfort of our homes. And people were starting to wonder if movies, theaters themselves were going to kind of go away and kind of become extinct. It's been on a downward trajectory. And for the first time, I think since COVID, we've seen it kind of uptick a little bit. So I want to get into that with him as well here coming up when he is able to join us on the Steve Marston Show. I know producer Tommy is efforting to get that happening right now. We'll look forward to asking him those things here coming up. I did want to bring this up, though, too. This was from John Piper. Now, John Piper. He is one of the most respected Bible teachers that there is. And I respect John Piper. I don't agree with a lot of the things he believes in as far as some of the kind of minutia teaching. And what I mean by that is Calvinism. You've heard me talk about it before. I just don't think that that's biblical at all. And I know there are people that are willing to fist fight to the end on Calvinism being real and being in the scriptures, but I just don't think it is. And John Piper made a post that I wanted to take a little exception with, and we're going to talk about it coming up in our next segment. But we are now joined through the miracle of technology by Paul Asay from Focus on the Families, PluggedIn.com. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am excellent. It's good to have you here. I think this is your second time on, if memory serves.
I think that's probably about right.
Yeah,
normally, Adam doesn't let me do any fun things. So this is a good opportunity for me.
It really is. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to pinch in and come in. It's going to be fun. And you and I were kind of talking off air, just to be transparent. Not a whole lot going on entertainment wise. We're kind of in the doldrums right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we really are.
Yeah. But there was something I did want to bring up that I thought you made an excellent point about is movie theaters. Back when COVID hit, it seemed like we found out how we could have all this entertainment on our own schedule, and we didn't have to leave the comfort of our own easy chairs to watch and experience movies and TV shows and everything. And we started to see the downward spiral of people actually going to the theater and enjoying that shared experience. But now for the first time, it says researchers are showing that theater attendance is starting to actually increase. Is that right?
That is right. That is right. Yeah, it's for movies, in the business of making movies, it's an encouraging development, right? Because I do think that we all sort of cocooned and we all sort of withdrew from the movies. But let's be honest, if you're a movie lover, it's really nice to go to the theater, see it with a bunch of people, have your popcorn, have your milk duds.
And especially this day and age with the new recliners and you get to kick back. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. You can't beat that. I got to tell you, and especially with certain movies, like, I don't know if you've had a chance to see Project Hail Mary, but that is sort of one that really kind of demands a big screen environment. To see that in the big screen, that makes a huge difference. And I kind of think that people are being drawn back to theaters in part because Hollywood is making movies they want to see, family-friendly stuff that they can all see together. And I think that that's encouraging.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time where Hollywood follows the sound of the cash register. So if we as a Christian community, especially if these faith-based films by faith-based filmmakers are not participated by, but we go out and buy tickets to and go and actually watch, Hollywood's going to say, that made money. Let's do some more of that.
That's exactly right. I think that above all, Hollywood is a business. The movie industry is an industry. And so when people are seeing movies and they're voting with their pocketbook, they're seeing what they want to see, it tells Hollywood what to make more of. And so to see a movie like Project Hail Mary do so well, to see family movies like a Super Mario Galaxy movie, I think that that's encouraging. And that will have ripple effects into what we get to see collectively. And yeah, if you're a faith-based movie goer, seeing movies like The Great Awakening or whatnot, it can be encouraging. We've seen more and more Christian movies and good Christian movies make it to the theater. That hasn't always been the case. I think the Christian movie industry is getting better and better and better. And that's in part because we've been supporting these movies.
Paul Asay is our guest. He is the director of PluggedIn.com. And I say this pretty much every week. If you are anywhere into entertainment like we are, you've got to bookmark and make one of your favorite places Plugged In, because it is just a wealth of information for you. It is just a well done movie and entertainment review website. So let's talk about this streaming series that's a reboot, Malcolm in the Middle. Now, of a certain age, people loved that show. I'll confess, I didn't really watch it too often. It was kind of out of my demo, I guess. But whenever you try to do a reboot of something that was really successful, most of the time it winds up flopping. What is your like? Well, it's true.
There is a lot of truth to that. It really is. I do think that for fans of Malcolm in the Middle, the new show, the rebooted show on Disney Plus, it does have a lot of the same flavor that the original did. It has that same type of humor. Almost everybody in the cast, including Bryan Cranston, he's won now something like 50 Emmys, but sure, he is still back doing his normal dad thing in Malcolm in the Middle, and that's kind of cool to see. So it has that same tang that we're familiar with from the original Malcolm in the Middle. Now, I don't think that we found the show quite as funny, and it also comes with maybe a few more faith-based problems. There's a little bit more LGBT content that you're going to find in here, but it's not a flop. It's not as good as the original, but I think for fans who really want to scratch that nostalgic itch, I think it comes close. It feels like that our reviewer actually said that it's a little like the latest Spider-Man movie, like No Way Home, which had all of those previous Spider-Mans come from other movie franchises, and everybody said, "Oh, that is so cool." Maybe it wasn't quite as great as we thought it was, but it's still pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's switch gears to something that's in theaters, the Panda Plan 2. Now, I got to be honest, I didn't even know there was a Panda Plan 1. So tell us about this.
So this really does show you just what kind of period we are in the world of movies right now. We are talking about the Panda Plan 2. So what we have is this isn't actually a Jackie Chan movie who does some really delightful family-friendly stuff. There's a couple of barriers that we are going to have to get through. And number one, this is actually a Chinese movie, which means that it's filmed entirely in Chinese. So you're going to have to deal with subtitles, or you're going to have to deal with dubbing in some theaters. And it does have some mystical elements that probably a lot of families might make them a little bit uncomfortable. But it does have some fantastic messages about family. It has some really strong messages about working together. Essentially, Jackie Chan and his pet panda, they go to this mystical realm where everybody really doesn't like to show very much emotion. You know, kids are required to be sort of on their own by the time they're 6. And if they show any emotion, someone's going to slap them. So it is sort of and really what Jackie Chan and it's a fictionalized version of Jackie Chan, what he and his panda are doing is showing that it's okay to show love. It's okay to have a family type of environment. And that is a sweet message that Plugged In can get behind.
Paul Asay is our guest. He is the director of pluggedin.com. Again, it's almost information overload, but that's a good thing. When you start looking at all of what they have broken down for you, you and your family can make the best decision for you, whether you're going to watch this show, you're going to pay money to go to the movies and actually see it. But there's also something here that I wanted you to talk about, and that's these tutorials that are online for each one of the streaming devices, because they're all the same, but they're just enough difference to really kind of make it difficult. Talk about the tutorials you guys have.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I love the most about our site. I'll be quite honest with you, because I think it really helps parents where they live. I think one of the things about today's environment is that parents can feel a little bit overwhelmed by everything that they and their kids are being bombarded by. And a lot of times they feel like their kids, their teens, they know this technology better than they do. And so the tutorials are really designed to help parents put them on firm footing, where they can have a better sense of what some of these social media platforms, these streaming platforms, we're going to be talking a little bit more about video games even, and the parental controls that might be a part of say Fortnite or Roblox. These are really important issues just to help parents familiarize them with and help them sort of guide their kids safely through these platforms. So we walk parents essentially step by step through what they need to do to set up parental controls, what they do, what they don't do. And the person who does them for us, she does a fantastic job. Her name is Emily Chow. She tries to break them, because kids are very smart and they will probably find a way to get around some of these tutorials. Or these parental guidance tools. So really, she really works hard to see how robust they actually are. And so we work really hard at those. So I'm glad you mentioned those.
Yeah, no, I love Emily. She's been on the program before, helping us raise tech savvy kids. She's great. And I do thank you guys for doing that, because I just think about myself as a parent, and my kids are a little older now, but I think about how much technology just is in my world, in my little bubble. I can't imagine having to try to oversee theirs, and everything they're pulled at. So this is excellent that you guys are doing that and providing it in a real fun and easy to watch way, because they're just quick little videos, but they, again, have a wealth of information.
Yep. And we're going to be trying to do them every single month. So every single month you come to our site, you will find a new tutorial. If we don't have one on something, chances are we will in the near future. So keep checking back with us and you'll see what we got.
And real quick, I know there's something special coming up with Adventures in Odyssey. Can you give us a little taste of what's coming up with that live feature?
Yeah, you know what? They've been keeping it very, very under wraps, to be honest with you. So I can't.
But you can tell me. It's just you and me.
I'm telling you, man, this is locked down, but it is kind of a cool thing. It's called Journey into the Impossible, and it's essentially a prequel story of Whit, who everybody who is involved with Adventures in Odyssey knows.
Oh, of course.
It's going to be Adventures in Odyssey first massive feature film. They're very excited about it. I can't wait to see it. So we will see how it all develops. I know that there's a ton of Adventures in Odyssey fans out there who will be very, very interested to see what this looks like.
Absolutely. Give everybody the website and encourage them to go to it.
You betcha. It's pluggedin.com. We do reviews of movies, entertainment of all sorts, and we talk a lot about technology too. So again, that's pluggedin.com.
That's Paul AC from pluggedin.com. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Steve. Talk to you soon.
How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep?
I don't know how.
You rock it.
I like that one. I hadn't heard that one before. It's good stuff. Welcome back. It's the Steve Marston Show, and we would love to hear from you today. We've got a new phone number for the program that you can call us from anywhere, 888-901-5454, 888-901-5454. We'll get to your calls coming up here in just a little bit, so go ahead and get them in. I wanted to talk about this. Lee Strobel is one of the most recognizable apologists that we have in Christian little world that we have. And he also on the front lines of trying to engage with Christianity and answering skeptics and their doubts. And there's a new movie, actually, it's a documentary to this end called The Story of Everything, where Lee goes and interviews not only people who are believers, but also unbelievers as well. Here's kind of a synopsis of it. It says, The Story of Everything is a cinematic exploration of the cosmos that reveals the hidden hand behind our universe, from the precise laws that govern the start to the intricate patterns found in every living cell. The film traces evidence of intentional design throughout nature, whether it's examining distant star-forming clouds or the spiral structure of DNA. We discover consistent signature that is woven into the fabric of all existence. This is going to be a really neat motion picture. And again, just like we were talking with Paul Asay, this is hitting theaters on April 30th. And Lee Strobel was on the Church Leaders podcast, and he was asked what is his favorite part of evidence that shows there really is a creator behind everything we see. Let's watch. Okay, we don't have it. That's okay. That's all right. Lee was talking about basically how what his favorite thing was just basically creation itself, seeing that we have learned through the ages that the universe was a beginning and probably has an end. You know, for years they thought it was just always eternal, and now even atheists, non-believers in the scientific world say that the universe had a definite start time. And so he went on to explain how he thought that was amazing and how that points all the way back to a creator. And so I think we've got the clip now. Let's watch Lee Strobel's answer here.
Yeah, there is.
That's so good. And the movie again is called, actually it's a documentary technically, but it's called The Story of Everything, and it hits theaters on April 30th if you are at all interested in going and seeing that. Um, Again, the John Piper thing, I may have to hold till later because I want to get to this story about Nyla Ray. You know, we have talked about her and have been a champion for her for a long time on the program because she was an OnlyFans star, if you want to call it that, made more money on that website than anybody else did, and yet was gloriously saved through a relationship with Christ. She's now evangelizing and really living out her faith over this last year or so. But not all is good. Let's watch her, I think on her latest podcast, where she was talking about the tax problems that she is having because, you know, she didn't pay her taxes back. when she was making like $300,000 or $400,000 a month. So here's a little bit of what she said. Okay. All right. Well, again, we're having a little problem with it. We're going to ship that little piece in and just throw it out the window. But yeah, she basically was giving a prosperity gospel kind of answer to the question of paying her taxes, basically saying that she's given them all to Jesus and she's saying in the name of Christ, basically go away. You got to pay your taxes, Nyla. I mean, I don't know what else to say to you. That's not a lack of, any kind of faith or any kind of spiritual discipline or anything. She's fallen down on understanding exactly what that means. I mean, sure, we have command over stuff in the spirit realm, but you still got to pay your taxes. So do that. And I hope she's not falling in to that prosperity gospel that says, whatever I want, whatever I claim in Jesus' name, I can have. That's just a misreading of scripture totally that we see from the likes of, Kenneth Copeland and that ilk. And to see her kind of going down that road a little bit kind of worries me, because I do think she has a good heart. And I do think she is a solid believer. I just don't want to see her get wrapped up in that. And again, the main thing, Nyla, pay your taxes. Back after this. All right, here we are, just about to wrap things up, not only for this week, but for the day. For the day and also this week. Yeah, English is really my first language. I promise it is. It's the Steve Marston Show, and this story again about that I've kind of teased a little bit. John Piper, he wrote this X post basically saying that God didn't die for frogs. He died for human beings, implying that we were worth the sacrifice. And he goes on to talk about how that completely turns grace on its head, that statement, because we are less deserving than frogs. And he goes on to talk about how they haven't sinned and we have, and it cost Jesus his life. It was so great a debt that only could be divinely paid. Okay, I get that. I understand where he's coming from. But just because we as Christians are unworthy of Christ's sacrifice and his love doesn't mean we're worthless. And that's kind of the problem I've always had with Calvinists and that Calvinist view. The fact that they feel like we are so just completely and totally depraved as people. Spiritually speaking, yeah, that's probably true, but not as intrinsic value, because we are made in God's image. So there's got to be a balance there. And I just think people like John Piper, a lot of times, it's just out of whack. That's my only criticism with Piper. Speaking of legendary people who made such great impact with their lives, with the gospel as pastors and as teachers on radio, Charles Stanley from In Touch Ministries, that is heard on both of these radio stations in San Antonio and in Little Rock. He passed away 3 years ago today. And, there's just a handful of guys that really made a huge impact on my life growing up and seeing them on television, listening to them on radio. Charles Stanley is definitely at the top of that list. And so he's sorely missed, but he had lived a long, full life and was pastor of the First Baptist Church Atlanta for, 50 years, literally, maybe even 60. Just an amazing testimony. And he is certainly missed. Our faith between your ears verse we're wrapping up is Psalm 16, verses 8 and 9. I have set the Lord continually before me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad and my soul glories and my flesh dwells securely. I hope you've memorized that over this week. We'll have another faith between your ears verse coming up on the next Steve Marston Show on Monday. So speaking of Monday, our guest is going to be Mark Evans. Mark is a pastor and an author and a corporate speaker, a guy who is just fabulous. You're going to love hearing from him. It's been a while since we've had him on the program. He's been super busy, but we were able to connect with him, and I'm looking forward to bringing him on Monday. So we're done for the week. Hope you'll be in church on Sunday. Be sure to encourage someone. Let your light shine. And producer Tommy, thank you to you. Thank you to Paul AC from PluggedIn.com for joining us. But most of all, thank you for being a part, listening, and watching today. Have a tremendous weekend. We'll be back Monday at 3, Lord willing. Hope to see you then. Adios.